Somebody's at the door. Let me go get it.
Let's see. Looks like we've got at least 3 of the 5. I haven't heard anything from Mark or Todd.
How's
The mayor
everyone
on?
doing? This is Andy.
Doing good, Andy.
Andy.
Good.
So who are we? Todd and
Todd and Mark. Looks like they're not quite. I saw the mayor's name popped up once, but I don't see him on the list right now.
I saw that I was on and got off real quick.
Everything's rolling when you're ready, including the TV in the council chambers.
Okay. I don't know,
Just-
Mike. Maybe give it just a minute or two and see if we get
oh, never mind.
Todd.
I was just texting him, so there he is. I don't have Mark's cell phone.
Coming on right now.
Oh, right there. So
Oh, is he? Okay.
we should be good to go then.
All righty. Let me, the only thing I forgot I was going to open up. Okay. We got everybody on. I guess the mayor's the only one missing. Have we heard?
Like I say, his name popped up for a second, but then went away. So I'm not
He jumped off. Okay.
sure.
Well, all right, we can get started and he'll join us when he gets a chance. Thanks everybody for joining us this March on our Power Board meeting. We are having to be virtual still until we're here otherwise. I guess, is there anybody in the boardroom that we need to, or in the chamber?
I'm not sure. I wasn't able to be at the city office today, so I'm actually doing it from home. So I'm not sure in there.
So, okay.
I can run and
All
check.
right, well, let's go ahead then and just get started. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll go ahead and motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
So Todd was a first and Mark was a second. Randy, do you want to start us on a vote?
Meyer, aye.
Andy,
Palmer, aye.
Mark,
Hauser, aye.
and Todd,
Spriggs, aye.
and Dinsmore, aye. So, all right. Did everybody have a chance to look through the minutes? Was there any questions, comments, changes that need to be made on that?
They look good to me.
I didn't see any changes that needed to be made.
I didn't see anything either, so. And then if we have a motion then to approve the February minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll go
I'll
ahead and
second it.
second that.
Okay, so Mark did a first and Andy did a second. Todd, do you want to start a vote?
Spriggs, aye.
Randy,
Meyer, aye.
Andy,
Palmer, aye.
Mark,
Hauser, aye.
and Dinsmore, aye. Okay. That takes care of those. So item number 3 is new business. Nikki, Uams Smart Energy Update.
All right. So I sent out the flyer that Rick and I have been working on just to try to get some information out there. We've also been working on redoing the Power website page to have all updated information, but more on UAMPS. We did include something in the newsletter as well. I can share, so let's see if I can do this. All right, so that's, if you guys can see that, that's the flyer that I sent out. If you're able to look at it, just kind of goes over a little bit about that we're a Uams partner and what it means to the citizens. This map is what I had made. It just outlines the Washington City power area that we cover. And then just kind of copied this from the Uams actual flyer that they already had and just created it for our own, some ways to save energy, and then the actual individual smart energy programs that we participate in. In addition to that, a little more detailed for the website is this that I've put together, which just kind of goes through and gives a little more information about each program. This is the same chart that Rick shared last time with the actual rebate amounts that are available, and a little more detailed on each UAMPS program that we participate in. So that's that part. I did find out that UAMPS has money available to help us with a little bit of promoting it. So they can, one suggestion they had was magnets that we could take to the appliance stores that they could stick on the fridges that would apply. She's up for any ideas as far as that goes on what we might want to do to help us. So whether it's flyers, whether it's putting information in our utility billing, stuff like that. So. Anyway, that's about all I have. I can keep going through this. The very last part on here is just the weatherization program I also included. So for low-income families or people that are struggling with their utility costs, that's just a little bit more on what available options they have as well.
And I'll just add quickly, I mean, Nikki's done a great job and pulled this together, and I think it will be a great step in at least getting the message out there that these programs, rebate programs, are available. So do we have any questions for Nikki or myself on this, or thoughts, recommendations? We talked about it a little bit last month.
What kind of advertising are we running, if any?
You broke up, Randy, there on mine at least.
I think you want to know what
I'm
kind
just
of
wondering if there's,
yeah, what
just
we're
wondering
doing.
if we had any current advertising for UAMPS, or if we're not doing anything yet.
Well, like she said, we've got this in the newsletter with some of these links, and then what she just showed there, we'll be working with Steve to get those on the website. And then I know we had some discussions after our meeting last month of a little bit of some of the challenges when we try to work with the vendors that sell it. You know, their motivation is to sell it, and the concern is, do they know which ones qualify and which don't? And so we don't get into the problem where somebody buys something, the store told them it qualified, and they find out later it didn't. And so, not saying we can't go down that route, but we need to figure out a way to address that particular issue. And so these other sites primarily refer them back to Mackenzie at UAMPS, so she can help them through that process.
Okay.
The flyer looks good, and I like the information. Yeah, it's too bad we can't figure out a way that And you're right, I didn't think about that, that if it doesn't qualify, the stores aren't going to know and take that knowledge and try to learn about it.
Right, right. And so that's the challenge. And I don't know if we can figure, and again, the main thing is I think if they'll do their homework up front before they go buy stuff, it'll be more successful, obviously, because they'll know going into it what qualifies and what doesn't.
Just trying to think here. There isn't a really, I mean, just internet searches. There's really, other than the newsletter and trying to get it out there and when they remember it, but
So is there anywhere on this flyer that we could just ask them to do that? Just, I mean, obviously there are questions. There's the question section below, but and I know the flyer is pretty full, but I'm wondering if if we should just have a line in there about what
Please contact prior to purchase or something, or verify prior to purchase.
please verify that your purchase is eligible for the program.
yeah, but if the salesman says, oh, this should qualify, and they're not going to care. They're
Yeah.
like Rick said, they're just going for that sell. I mean, how many
Absolutely.
times do we hear, I bought this house and no one was supposed to build next to me?
Yeah.
That's a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 sale that they're not checking on.
Or the
I think
solar
we
is.
could easily add that in. I mean, Nikki can work her magic and find room, right?
The bottom does say to verify eligibility, but we could put a little bit more
Okay.
regarding that.
Or we could make it a different color or bold it or something like that.
Yeah, that would work if we did it a different color or bolded it,
Okay.
I think. So I do see that there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of room that we can play around with. So
You could put make sure your sales agent checks the eligibility as well. I'm just kidding, but maybe if we had that information on the site that says, some of these don't apply, and your sales agent may tell you that it applies, but don't take their word for it. Just do your own research or something in an eloquent way.
and we can put more on our actual webpage about
Yeah,
qualifications are too.
that would probably be better.
And I don't
But that's
know.
perfect. Go ahead, Rick.
I was just gonna add, Nikki could check with Mackenzie at Uams and see if they have anything more specific on what qualifies and doesn't, and maybe put that as a link to the website or something. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if they have that list or if she looks at each application as it comes in.
Nikki, you can save this, or this is obviously saved. Can this there's that Facebook Washington City Matters page. Can we add it to that, or
Yeah, I
does the
can get
city
off.
have control over that thing, or is that just a private person?
David does, but I work with him pretty close on all the social media. So
I think we could put it on the city Facebook page, but I don't know that we'd want to do the Washington
Private one.
Matters since for that reason, but Steve and Dave can help us through that.
Usually if it's something worth sharing, the moderators of that site will share stuff from ours anyway, so it should get there eventually.
Okay.
Yeah, the only other thing I can think of is if we somehow mark our calendars and have a schedule at every 4 months or something, just reminding, because different people see it, and just set something up that we're just we know that we can post this or provide this information.
I did just find a list on Uams. It gives every, like, by brand and the model number and the incentive amount. So that's something I can easily.
So it's there.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's ever changing, but yeah, we can. definitely include it, or at least a link to that specific page.
Right.
It's just a matter of remembering, because I know, well, let's see, I'm trying to think. I think I bought my AC unit last year, but I forgot about the rebate. So it's just remembering it when those purchases come up.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can do those simple improvements and
For sure.
see if we can get some more interest. We did have 2 or 3 that did some rebates last month. I saw on the Uams bill, so that was good. Hey, Mayor.
Okay. All righty. Is that everything, Nikki?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. On to regular business, Rick.
Okay, this should be a fairly simple, straightforward meeting, but as Nikki said, that she's working on, we're going through our city webpage and making sure the information there is the most up-to-date, correct. It'll take a little bit of time to get through it all, but she's making progress, and Steve will help us with that as well. We've started our fiscal year 2022 budgeting process. It's underway. We've turned in our initial operations budget, and then there'll be more going on in the coming weeks and months to go through that process. So I don't anticipate any big issues or concerns on that. I think we have the funds to carry out what we need to get done in the project. So probably the scariest thing on the budget is our wholesale power prices and all the craziness that went on last year. And we'll talk a little bit about what happened in February as well. So that's our biggest challenge, is to deal with some of those unknowns that are out of our control to a certain extent. So on the generation side of things, Wheeler held, they call it the Wheeler Users Group. And what that is they just arrange for a Zoom call. Normally we do it in person, where all the different utilities that have similar engines get together, talk about things that work, things that didn't work. And then we're also able, they have a database to be able to kind of share parts between, and that's comes very handy. Hurricane may have a part that we don't have, and vice versa in stock, and we can get the engines up and going a little quicker than we would have otherwise. So as far as a quick report on projects, believe it or not, TDS and CenturyLink are done with the transfers on 100 South. I think we have about 3 or 4 poles left to remove. 2 of those are in Todd Spriggs' yard. And so we've got those on the list. They'll be coming out shortly. So that was a great milestone on that. So we have just a few poles to remove there. And then that project will be completed in all aspects, which will be great. The Kings Road project, the first phase is basically the western half. The 100% of the conduit is in. They've pulled in 100% of the new wire, and the new transformers are set, and they've started the cable terminations, or probably approximately about 50% through the terminating process there. So I'm hoping that those folks will be on their new system by the end of the month or early April. So that will be good for those people. And it was interesting. The crews commented that they've had people in the second phase wanting to know when we were going to do that. So the residents in Kings Row have been really supportive of the project and been appreciative of it. So because it has been disruptive for them at times. We've been digging in their roads and different things, but it's went really quite well. So I'm going to share on the next one other project. I'm going to me share my screen, is on our generation room, or our additions at the generating plant. This is kind of what the upstairs look like. I gotta get rid of. Are you guys seeing the other pictures? There we go.
No, just the upstairs.
Okay. So that's kind of how it started out. They obviously pulled the carpet out at this point. And this was when they had the studs up and wiring done. And it's too bad Nikki wasn't able. I think she was a little worried that they're out there sheetrocking as we speak, and possible noise. So they've got, since then, the city inspected the roof. They did the roof inspections. And so they insulated between all the rooms. And is the sheetrock all hung, Nikki, at this point? Or that was their goal to have done today?
Yes, I believe so. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. It should be all hung today, inspected tomorrow, and then they'll start the taping and mudding it.
So that project's been moving along quite well, and I think everybody's excited to see that new addition. It will be great for the department. I wanted to report that the capital facilities plan and the strategic plan that the Power Board approved last month was also approved by the council on February 24th. And those will be two of the new documents that get uploaded to the website. So that was great to have that. The council was very supportive and appreciative of the work the Power Board does as well. The capital facilities plan will kind of serve as a foundation for the impact and rate studies I've talked about the last couple months. Most likely, and I need to coordinate a little more with Jeremy, I would suspect that we'll probably do a combined Power Board and City Council work session and have our consultant that prepared the impact and rate studies on a Zoom call, and so everybody can hear that report at the same time. So I'm suspecting it'll probably be late March or sometime in April. There's a few things I gotta work out with the consultants before we're ready for that, but that'll be coming here shortly. Any questions so far? We had from Wayne's operation report from the crews. It doesn't sound like much, but we've finally, it's taken several years to get all the repairs needed on all of our trucks up to snuff. And they were able to successfully get all those done. And most of them have even been some of the minor variety, but we've even got those caught up now. So we supported Blake Electric. I don't know if you guys were even aware, but last summer, one of the main panels at the community center, the breaker and the bus bar burned up in it. And Blake Electric put a couple temporary breakers in there to get them by while the new panel was made. And that finally came in early January, and we've got those. That was installed last Thursday. So we helped them out with de-energizing the service and providing a line truck to set that piece of equipment in there. Most of you hopefully have noticed that the city now has new banners on Telegraph and Main Street. And I think the goal is there to have 3 or 4 different banners that we can rotate through the year, that will take one down, put the next one up, so we don't have to go out twice. So that's a nice addition to our downtown area. We energized, no surprise to you if you've been driving through the area, more apartment buildings at the Levita, Brio, and Red Rock apartments. So they just keep building them. And I believe the Red Rock is completed now as far as having all of the meters set in the Red Rock apartments. The others still have several more meetings to go, or buildings to go, sorry. We're working and got the material on order for a tie project from up in the Bluffview Drive area that will give us another tie to support the load growth that's going to be occurring there at the commercial area on exit 13. We did some switching last week. St. George City, who's the Uams O&M operator, they did testing on the breaker that normally feeds us from the Mill Creek area, and we switched our load to an alternate feed and then back in the same day. Jake continues to work on SCADA at Coral Canyon, getting our RTUs updated to the new RTAC, and he's done his annual weed control and pest control in those. We did help out the Parks Department on the wheel at the Nyson Park. If you haven't seen that, it looks really nice. And there was it was featured in the city newsletter as well. So as far as outages go, I believe we only had one. There was a fuse that blew in the commercial area. We had about 10 customers out. That's been one of those unusual ones that the fuse blew. We couldn't find anything, so we replaced it, and it's held since. So we haven't been able to find the root cause on that, which is a little makes you nervous that it may come back, but it's been over a week now. So could have been something as simple as a small critter in one of the switches, and they kind of, when that happens, get blown apart. And so they kind of clear themselves once we put the fuse in. So that's kind of the report for kind of our day-to-day operations. Any questions on that? Okay, should I move into the Uams report? Hang on one sec. So as far as the Uams goes, we're still having our meetings virtually. They have talked about possibly starting in May to at least have a limited number of people at the Uams headquarters. So we'll see how that goes. We completed the Uams budget approval process. Their fiscal year is from April 1st to March 31st. So we're coming up on the end of the current fiscal year, and we'll start the new one April 1st. So probably the biggest thing on the Uamp side of things was the middle part of February, from about the 11th to the 20th, because of the cold snap in Texas. Believe it or not, it affected us fairly significantly here as far as power prices. So I just wanted to show you, just so you have a little bit of an idea. This is should be able to see on the screen this gas notification that we get from Uamps on a daily basis. And if we were to run our generators, we would pay the Kern River delivered there in the middle. And on February 9th, it was $3.50, which is pretty typical for this time of year. And I was just going to show different ones. And this is what started to happen on February 13th through 15th. It went up to just under $80 a decatherm. And on February 17th, it went up to $120 a decatherm. What that means, if we were to run our generators, normally we talk about a good power price in the 40 to maybe 70 range. this would have put us over $1,200 if we would have run at this level of gas pricing. And so what that did is we also get the power side of things report from Uams, and this is, again, goes back to February 9th. They were buying power from Pacificor on this particular day for $34, which is 3.4 cents. You know, and that's, again, pretty typical for February. Did I have that in there twice? Oh, this was for February 10th. And again, pretty typical. You can see they bought it from 2 or 3 different places from $27 to $42. But when all the cold snap started to happen in Texas, gas prices went crazy. So we got this email when it had jumped over $100, and that made running our Nebo plant at over $800 a megawatt hour, which again, that's 80 cents. And so it's hard to make money if we buy it at 80 and sell it at 10. And there were a few hours that Uams had to buy it as high as $550 here during that period of time in February. And then you can see on the other side, about on the 21st, it comes right back down to where it normally would have been. So I don't have all the details at this point because of it's hard to sift through all the Uams billing. But I'm guessing we'll have somewhere in the 50 to 75, maybe even $100,000 impact to us for that week because of these high pricing. And I think the takeaway, or one of the takeaways from that, is it really demonstrates how intertwined or interconnected the utility systems are, as well as, it's just how quickly the market can change, even on things that occur not in our local area. Last summer, it was the fires and the heat in California that drove prices high. So any questions on that? Or I just wanted to make you aware of, you may have I think everybody was aware of the cold in Texas, but probably didn't realize that it had a direct impact on our power pricing here in Utah. APPA is sent letters to the president and to FERC asking for some sort of cap be put on gas pricing in such events. I don't know how far they'll get, but they are trying to, advocate for their member utilities. So, any questions?
So summarize that again, as simple as you can. Bottom line, dollar wise, how much do you think it affected Washington City?
I'm guessing right now, I did a real kind of back of the napkin kind of thing. I'm guessing probably in the 50 to 100,000 range, potentially. And part of the problem where Uams is our scheduling agent, so I don't know exactly how much of that 550 power that we will have ended up buying. We were protected to a large degree because we have our 5-year block purchase, about 7.5 megawatts, and our loads are typically down right now. But it even affected things like the Vail plant, which is a heat recovery off of the gas line. So Kern River wasn't compressing gas, so there was no waste heat to help us generate. So that plant was down during this period. Wind actually was doing fairly well during that period, which was good, which helped us out a little bit there. So, and again, gas prices and power prices, just because that's what the most common resource now is a natural gas-fired plant. So when gas prices go up, power prices are going to follow immediately, because that's the fuel for that next resource out there. And unfortunately, we won't know. We'll get our February bill. It'll be late this month before I see that bill to know exactly. So we'll have a better idea at next month's meeting, but that's kind of where we're at there. So any other questions on that?
Is there any talk of being able to avoid the situation? I mean, across the country or between associations?
Well, that's where APPA is trying to help address that. I mean, the obvious and simplest would be if there was some sort of cap imposed on gas prices in emergency situations. Again, APPA has sent letters recommending at least it be looked into. How far that goes, I'm not sure, and again, a lot of that's driven by free market. A lot of the wellheads, they said, in Texas froze, so they couldn't get gas out of the ground. So that made gas, say in Wyoming or other places that could get gas, more valuable because this supply and demand, just basic market economics. So even if, and again, because our fuel source is natural gas, was the price up that high, the 550 was actually cheaper than we could have generated. So unless we would have locked in the gas, that would be the only way I can see right now to protect us. However, this time of year, typically power prices are in the 20-30s, which we can't generate for that. So, it normally wouldn't make sense to buy that. And so that's the challenge that we really have.
So how would you estimate that would transfer to the average consumer? Is there any way of calculating that?
Well, it's, how our rates are set up, it's not going to, only through the power cost adjustment. That's the only mechanism we have that will be passed on to the customers. And that's a rolling 12-month average. So it won't have a big spike like our bill will see. And it will be fairly modest. It'll be in the few dollars a month kind of impact. So it's not going to be as dramatic percentage wise as ours probably will be. So again, our power cost adjustment in our rates, there's a fixed amount, and then over that 12-month rolling average, it can go a positive or negative adjustment. We've had a few months of negative adjustments when power prices have been good. So I don't anticipate that being a significant impact to our customers. And we also, the city, it was before I got here, established the rate stabilization fund. If it got really bad, we could, recommend to the council some of those monies be utilized. But I don't foresee us needing to do that at this point. But there are some mechanisms the city has in place to not only protect the utility, but protect the customers from large variations as well. And you probably saw on some of the news reports, some people had signed up basically for a market. In Texas, they can pick and choose who they buy their power from. And some of them signed up for basically a market purchase. And the one report, there was a guy that said his bill was $15,000. Of course, they're trying to figure out how to help those folks too. But again, the free market's a funny animal, and it's great when the prices are low, but when these extreme events happen, it can be pretty costly.
Rick, how did this affect Dixie Power in any way? Are they?
I doubt it would affect them in the same way because, again, they're tied to coal. So their fuel cost wasn't impacted.
Okay.
And again, that's the benefit they have right now while the coal is available.
Because I'm seeing with the Texas side of it that a couple of those power companies have now, well, the state shut them down. So, I mean, we'd be under that kind of a situation. Whereas if Dixie Power went up, we'd have to supply power to there, wouldn't we?
Now, say that again. I missed.
Say if something like this happens and the power company goes under, would we have to supply that service to south of the river? We couldn't very well say, sorry, guys.
So if you were saying if they were to have gone bankrupt or something like that, I'm not sure what the obligation would be as a city. Obviously, we'd have to look at it. I don't anticipate obviously that happening, but I don't know. Jeremy could maybe weigh in a little bit on that one.
But that's what Texas, from what I've read with some of these companies in Texas, a couple of them have already declared bankruptcy. The state's going after some of them. Some of them are being sued by customers. So, I mean, it's really destroyed the power system in Texas, just this one storm.
Right. And they were set up as a much more open market, if you will.
Yeah.
What most of the rest of the country is.
Yeah, and I saw that. I mean, the companies that provided it as an open market like that, they tried to warn everybody saying, hey, you might be best to go get on a fixed rate because of the storm, but obviously it didn't happen. So no, it's like you said. I mean, you're telling us that everything that happened down there is going to affect us, but I just worry that's going to be a big case that we're going to be dealing with a lot this year.
Correct. And obviously it gives us some pause for concern. And again, it happened little different set of events, but it happened last summer as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can out predict the weather and I think the system is running closer to capacity than it historically has been because of the retirement of a lot of coal plants and other generation sources. So there's not a lot of excess out there when these events happen. And I think that's why you see some of that happening in the more extreme than we have historically seen.
Is there, I mean, everything you talked about was going national and trying to get that. Is there anything we could do to go to the state where we might have a little bit more influence? Like, obviously, I saw that after this happened, Texas was able to declare a natural disaster, which gave them federal funds. But we're going to be affected by other states and things happening. Is there anything we can do on a state level that can protect both the customers and the city?
You know,
Uamps needs to be asked.
You know, certainly they're obviously aware of it and actually have asked us to make sure we submitted our information to APPA and others. But I think short of putting price caps on things, I'm not sure what else could be done. I don't know how difficult that would be. I would suspect fairly difficult to do. You know,
Rick, if I can chime in, I think
sure.
what you really see here is the necessity of a project like the CFPB. I mean, I think if anything, we should look at that and realize how important that is for us. A resource that isn't dependent on weather, it isn't dependent on, the price of natural gas, that we can dispatch when we need it. And as we continue to go on these other resources and look at wind and solar, and we push nationally for wind and solar to be the answer, this should give everybody pause. You can't put everything into one basket, and you can't count on that. But if anything, I think it should make everybody recognize how important that CFPP nuclear project really is.
Very, very good point.
I was going to say the same thing.
Because at least that fuel source will be known and, I guess, captured on site, so it wouldn't be subject to these type of widespread market volatilities, and certainly not weather affected. So, no, that's a great point. And again, I think we'll see some of that happen because of some of these events last summer. This one, I think it'll at least make people take a little bit of a pause and look of, what have we done, and where do we gotta, how do we protect ourselves from these extreme events? Okay, any more on that fun topic? Okay, just report on the different Uams projects. On the Central St. George project, we continue to work with Rocky Mountain on some relaying and issues that affects the area to allow us to maximize our ability to use the transformers we have that serve the county. We had a call this morning amongst the Uams group, and they sent a letter to Rocky Mountain. So that's just an ongoing process. There's a study group that's studying the system in the area that has representatives of Uams, Rocky Mountain, and Deseret on it, are the three primary drives there. So, and again, once those reports come out, it'll probably be at least April, May. I'll bring those back and report any findings that come out of that process. On the Payson Nebo project, it's been running well. Average cost is just under 64 cents for this year. For the upcoming budget year, they have a major control system upgrade. So the plant will be out. It's in October and the first part of November. It's about a 6-week outage. And so to hedge the power that they're going to have to replace during that time while the plant is down, there's been a little bit of increase to the budget to that project to cover that. It's one of those that we hope it'll come in better, but they did add some money to that, and I think it's a wise move to cover us there. The Vail plant's been running really well, with the exception of that week that Kern River wasn't compressing gas. And if we don't have that heat source, that plant isn't able to run. The last week or so since that period, it's been running at capacity. So that's been a good resource for us. Nothing too different to report on the government and public affairs project, other than they're just continue to watch, any of the climate legislation in particular that may be coming up. I don't think there was any too large of legislation in the Utah state that's wrapping up this year that directly affects the power side of things that I'm aware of, unless Jeremy knows of something that I missed. For the Firm Power project, they reported that both the Red Mesa solar and the Steel solar projects are on schedule. Their commercial operation date, I think Red Mesa's, I want to say it's May or June of next year, 2022. And then steel solar is in December of 2022. So we'll have those resources starting next year. They won't help us this year, but next year. There's also several study projects, and as we get more information, we'll bring those back to you. One of them is a solar project in New Mexico called the San Juan project. They're working out some transmission issues to see if it's even viable for us. So when they get that information, I'll bring it back. But I just want to make you aware that we're still, because we're in such a growth mode, looking at various resources. There's another heat recovery project. It's called Muddy Creek in Wyoming. It'll be about twice the size of Vail, also on a Kern River pipeline. The one advantage that project has is that compressor station's at the front end of the Kern River system. So I think the likelihood of it being compressing gas, should have a higher capacity factor than even what we have down here at Vail. They're reporting that the estimated project prices for that would be in the low $50 per megawatt range, which would be again a great resource. And they're thinking that that could be online the fall of 2023. We did complete the sale or purchase of a summer product for this upcoming summer, which was good. So we have a known resource for at least part of what we'll need. Unfortunately, those prices were pretty high. They were about twice of what they were last year for that similar purchase. But keep in mind that still during peak times, we'll still have to buy off the market, probably in the 15 to 20 megawatt range. So that's why keeping an eye on the wholesale market is so important. So on our wind projects, the Horse Butte project had a capacity factor of about 33%, which was pretty good for that project. And like I reported before, it actually was running fairly well during that high price period, which was good. We have started a phase 2 study project of that, which we could potentially get another megawatt or a little bit more than that if that second phase is pursued. So again, that will be something we bring back once we have better details on that. The study project will give us more of an indicative power price that we can expect. So any questions on that? So the last one I just wanted to give a report on is the carbon-free project. Probably not at the April meeting, but the May meeting will have a lot more details. I think Uams sent this out, or I did. That probably the biggest thing that's happened for the carbon-free project this last month was they signed it's a non-binding letter of intent with a utility in Washington State that is very interested in the project. And so they've set a target date, hopefully if things go well, that they would have a power sales contract or some equivalent arrangement by June 1st. And note that their interest level is 150 megawatts, which would be a huge boost to the subscription concerns that we've had. There's a couple others that they've indicated that they're working on, that they've sent the letter of intents to. And what the purpose of that is basically it identifies that they can exchange information back and forth in more detail. Confidentiality will be kept and those kind of things. So I think they're making some good progress on subscription. And then by the end of this month is when the new class 4 estimate is due, which will pin down whether we go with a 6 or an 8 type configuration for the plant, and making sure that we stay under the $55 price target. So not a lot of details on that, other than like I say, this one I did want to bring up, and you know, it was a real positive sign there. And I really do think, kind of what Jeremy said, when people start looking at things and what's been going on, I think if we can get some more interest and participation, I think we'll start seeing people come in much quicker than we have for the last few months. So any
Wonder
questions?
how much resistance they'll get out of Washington with just the resistance that we've had with nuclear. And knowing how Washington State is, that reading that just kind of surprised me a little bit. I wonder what kind of backlash or resistance they'll get from the citizens there. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, obviously I would, you know, they must feel like it's something that they can work through, or they wouldn't be, you know, pursuing it. I believe my understanding is that Washington, the state of Washington, recognizes nuclear as a carbon-free resource, or as part of, because they've set mandates that they need to be carbon-free by such and such a date. And so they've recognized that that's a viable, acceptable source of power. So, and I think most states are coming around to that they realize that without a stable resource, that the grid just isn't going to work on just strictly wind and solar and battery.
I've noticed on the little bit of social media that I've been on that there's been a lot of positive press on these small nuclear reactors. So I was happy to see that, you know, maybe the public opinion can be influenced with good media, and yeah, I was excited to see that.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that more and more. There was trying to think of if it was in one of my IEEE magazines along those lines, that it was more and more environmentally oriented organizations are becoming more supportive, because I think they realize some of the same things that we've talked about for a long time here, that it needs to be part of the solution. You know, and if we're truly interested in significantly reducing carbon, we have to have that stable resource. You know, you look into, you know, proponents to start electrifying the transportation industry and those kind of things. That just would add, you can think the amount of energy to supply all the cars running around. You know, that's a huge amount of energy that you'd have to find a source for. And that's kind of my report for this month. It's a little simpler. And like I say, we'll keep you posted on a lot of these fronts. And I hope most of you, I sent an email to Chairman Dinsmore. I believe UAMPS is sending you most of the emails. If you get one from them and from me, I'd rather err on you having too much of the same information than not enough, or missing it altogether. So. Any other questions?
Is everybody receiving those emails?
Did everyone get the UAMPS video link? There was a promotional video, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I got it.
Okay. So I think you are, because the the amount is so big, I don't see who they send it to. You know, they have different groups, and so sometimes I'm not sure who's seeing what. So if you get it twice, I'd rather have that than miss it.
Okay. Is there any other things that we need to talk about, or questions, concerns, thoughts?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll go ahead and motion to adjourn.
Sorry, I beat you to it, Andy.
Nah, no problem. You got it. Next
I'll
time.
let you.
First,
I'll
and
let you
I'll go ahead
second
and
it.
second that.
Okay, Mark, you vote. Got to take yourself off mute, Mark.
I was right. Sorry.
Todd,
Spriggs, aye.
Andy,
Palmer, aye.
Randy,
Meyer, aye.
and Dinsmore, aye. So, all righty, till next month, unless Rick gives us a heads up that we're going to do a work meeting with the council, and we'll send out notices for it. So
Thank you.
thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. Have a good night, everybody.
All right,
See you
Rick,
later. Bye-bye.
Rick, stay on for a second.
sure.
And then, are we recording still? Steven, have you turned that off?
Not quite. Oh, right now. Have to wait for it to catch up. It's a little behind.